We are joined today by Gigi Young, who is not related to me, but I'm still going to call her cousin Gigi, who is an intuitive, a podcaster, YouTuber. Most people watching this channel will know you. Even the sort of dyed-in-the-wool conservative anthroposophists know about you, Gigi. So, and of course, you are the, I would say, the preeminent spiritual E-Celeb out there at the moment. So great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Um, so my idea, or what I asked you about that we could talk about today, was about this big topic of the incarnation of Ariman, and also just the encounter with evil that's sort of well, occurring in lots of different ways, or coming to the surface, you could say. But then also watched a video of yours from a couple of days ago about again about pop culture, and especially these images of women in pop culture, the pop stars like Katy Perry riding the giant mechanical bull and stuff like that. And yeah, so I don't know where to start really, Gigi. What are you into at the moment? What are you thinking about?
Well, yeah, I think all those topics are great. I think that the incarnation of Ariman is an important conversation because I think we can see in society that, for example, everything Rudolf Steiner said over 100 years ago seems to be slowly coming true. And I love to see people's take on who they think Ahriman is and when exactly they think he's going to incarnate. I find that very fascinating. I'd love to hear what you think. But we can see it really all around us, the rise of technology, people not having these attention spans. You see this idea of having the false clairvoyance with things like Neuralink and all. It's all, extremely harmonic. And in regards to the the sort of, I have a new series called Occulted where we analyze the different figures in society for occult underpinnings. And I just did a show on the Whore of Babylon. And I think that that actually also goes very closely with Ahriman as well, because I think she almost lays out the field for that too, but we don't talk about the feminine as much, maybe perhaps. But she's definitely there helping for sure.
Okay, that's interesting. I haven't heard that before. So could you say some more about that? What you mean by the feminine aspect of, yeah, maybe laying the groundwork for this incarnation?
Well, the feminine in occultism usually represents humanity. Lose you.
I've lost you. I've lost you. Uh,
What?
okay, we're back. We're back. You can keep going.
Okay. I was just saying that the feminine in occultism can represent humanity's past. And in anthroposophy, that's associated with the lunar epoch or the sort of lunar kingdom, or what Rudolf Steiner says, the lunar clairvoyance. And so it's this old way of being that doesn't quite fit for modern times. It's sort of this pre-Christ image that's missing the impulse of Christ. And this is what the Whore of Babylon, in my mind, really represents, is this old moon, this old lunar culture that is missing that impulse, that initiating impulse, but that sort of spreading out in the world and absorbing people. And I think that that almost creates a fertile soil for Ahriman to come in. Is this, and even when you look at some of the Zoroastrian pictures of Ahriman, and he's fighting with Ahura Mazda, he's associated with lunar imagery, actually. He's sort of the dark brother, the lunar brother. And so I find that very interesting. It's like the lunar stream fighting the new impulse, and people still unconscious, still sleeping. And that makes, a large portion of the population that's getting ushered into these, I would say, lunar impulses, or that old lunar clairvoyance, according to Rudolf Steiner, that makes them, I think, more susceptible to it. Because there has to be a feminine, even in ritual, there has to be a feminine force that's basically receiving the masculine, right? Which is an harmonic antichrist impulse. And I see that as being the Whore of Babylon figure in Revelation.
Okay. And is that connected with this lunar clairvoyance, as you mentioned? Is that the false clairvoyance that a lot of people are experiencing, where maybe that, they're having these, profound spiritual experiences, but maybe in the way Steiner might say it, is that they're not objective spiritual experiences, that you and I could both experience the same thing. They're this false clairvoyance that's really just my own stuff or projected outwards, or how do you see it?
Yeah, that's how I see his explanation of that personally, is that moving forward after humanity becomes an individual, we have the ability to be objectively clairvoyant, see the world objectively, because now we're an individual. But before we became individuals, which only actually happened officially recently, we had a kind of hive mind state. And the clairvoyance was sort of more, I guess you could say, like how he describes clairvoyance on the moon. It was sort of like your own personal pictures to get to know yourself, sort of thing. So you're not perceiving something objective that's going to lead you into a higher truth. You're just perceiving images of yourself like a mirror. And the purpose of that is to become conscious. But once you become conscious, your clairvoyance becomes objective. Does that make sense?
Yes,
That's how I
good.
understand it. I don't know if he
Yeah.
explains it that way, but that's how I understand that
Mhm.
that lunar clairvoyance thing. Is it's not it's sort of like how Rudolf Steiner says, we need spiritual science to bring us through into the new era. It can't just be whatever you feel it to be, whatever you want it to be, to feel like you're a god or to feel like you're powerful. That's childish, right? And that's what we see in the New Age and the conspiracy community. It's this a la carte spirituality that you just take on because it makes you feel better, and that's all that matters. So that's just Luciferianism, which is in the lunar stream of things. So that's how I see that personally.
I just want to take a short break from this conversation to let you know about a video I've created called Facing the Future with Inner Calm. And it's really for those people who want to know a little bit more about Rudolf Steiner and his work, and just why it's so relevant in today's world and in the world that's coming towards us out of the future. So you can actually join up to receive that video by clicking on the link in the description below. And then you'll also receive my newsletter, and you'll also be able to have access to the Spiritual Scientist online community. And so that's a place where we can discuss these things further and explore them even more deeply, meet like-minded people, and also there'll be regular videos in there, short courses, and also live sessions on Zoom and things like that you can have access to. So just click on the link in the description below, and look forward to seeing you over there. And now back to the conversation. And so it sounded like the way you put it then was it had its place, it had its role, and it was in a sense it was right for a particular time in human evolution, but it's not anymore.
Right. And every single era, every single epoch, there is a sort of process that we have to engage in and develop. And then the music changes, and then the energy shifts. It becomes more intense, and we have to develop our organs differently. We have to develop our consciousness for that time, for that impulse. And it's almost like going from backwards to forwards sort of thing. And that's what creates the purification of the human being and the deepening of the human being. But so many people just get caught up in this lunar clairvoyance, this lunar aspect, and they don't know the music has changed. The rhythm has changed, and they keep going with this old rhythm and this old way of being. And then as time moves forward, eventually they'll realize that they're very behind. And that's where Ariman comes in and sort of offers you this false path of evolution, right? You can you can live forever, right? You don't need spirituality. Here's this intellectual, thing. You can use all your lunar capacities, but I'll give you that evolutionary impulse, and it'll be through technology. And so that's how it all sort of plays. That's how I see it anyway.
And that sounds like a kind of a working together of the Luciferic element and the Aramanic element, where you get this something trying to, like technology coming in saying, okay, yeah, you can live forever, you can just use your intellect and you can, um, you know, just be fettered to the earth. While at the same time, there's this clairvoyance that's just yours. It doesn't relate to anything in reality.
Yeah, and it's indulgent, right? It's kind of like what we see going on in social media with all these different echo chambers. And people are just picking their own truth based on like aesthetics or their own pain, you know? And it's like people don't really get together anymore and say, no, but what is objectively true? What is objectively moral, though? What is objectively true? Everyone just stays in their echo chambers now on social media, and they just kind of proliferate their own explorations rather than getting to the higher discussion in it all, which is truth.
Mm.
And that's like the same thing, I think, with the clairvoyance, where it's like you're just living in delusion and imagination. Yeah.
Okay. And I think that's where one of the dangers is as well, is because when people have that kind of a clairvoyant experience, it does feel real. We do experience it as a real experience. It doesn't feel like just a projection of our own soul and our own stuff.
It is real. And this is
Right.
where you get into what New Agers would call false light, is that you can actually communicate with entities, right? Luciferic entities, harmonic entities that will mirror to you whatever you want to see in order to parasitically attach to you. So you can be psychic, you can have a psychic experience, but it's not an experience that is going to bring you to truth. And that's where the idea of, even though we're in this room and it's physical, we're surrounded by spirits. We're surrounded by different kinds of angels, deceased people, and we can't see them, but they're affecting us, and they're all seeking to work through us. The Luciferic spirits seek to work through man. Harmonic spirits seek to work through man. And the Michael essence seeks to work through man as well, the Michael spirits too. So it's sort of like you can have a very real psychic experience, and a lot of people do, but it's not enough. It's not enough to just have a psychic experience. You have to be attuned. You have to have the attunement to have an experience that's actually going to evolve you and not just mirror to you with these trickster entities exactly what you want to hear so they can feed on you and work through you in the world. Like possession, basically, unfortunately.
Right. And what do you say to people about how to do that attunement, or how to become attuned?
You have to be very aware of your own pain and trauma and where you're vulnerable. And when God shows you something in your life where maybe you're in pain, or maybe there's something going on there, you have to take responsibility for it and be humble and address anything that you can in your own personal world, in your own personal life. And this is what Steiner would call catharsis and the development of spirit self, which is you have to basically go inward and purge from yourself your lower impulses, things that are an impulse within your lower centers within you that don't serve you, that are about power, that are about control, that are about these games that we play in the world, pure reactivity rather than consciousness. You have to kind of go through and remove over time all that's within you that is more of an animal impulse or reactivity, all that kind of stuff. And then the more you do that, the more catharsis you experience, which means the more purified your astral body becomes. Because if you're not doing this, your astral body is going to have images in it and activity in it that represents your lower impulses. And so it's not going to be clear. And that's why you're engaging with this false clairvoyance. And the astral body is created in lunar development too. So you've got all these images that are lower, and you're just shadow dancing with it all the time. Whereas if you focus on the purification of the lower centers, then it becomes pure, like crystal water. And that's when spirit can come in. And that's when you get into the real rhythm. And that's when you get real information. So it's all about you, the individual, experiencing the purification of the soul.
So essentially bring self-knowledge, know thyself, bringing consciousness into...
Know thyself, absolutely. And I think also humbling yourself before God and humbling yourself before Christ as well. And knowing, what I've noticed is, I think it's also imperative to know that there's something greater than you in this world. Like I see so many people that the big reveal in their teachings and in their life is like, I got it. We're living in a simulation. We're living in a machine. I got it. We're living in a hologram. Like, this is the big reveal after years. It's like, no, and I see that. And not only are we living in a simulation, a hologram, I'm the creator of it. This is what we see more and more and more, is this kind of, I guess, machine Gnosticism or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so machine Gnosticism, where the cosmos is a machine. And so I think, to add on to the catharsis process, not only is it know thyself, it's also know that there are forces greater than you in this world, like God, like Christ, like higher angelic beings that are further along than you in your advancement. And I think that humbleness is important too. You know what I mean? Because it's actually a relief. It sounds like you're being like, self-flagellating, but it's actually a relief when you actually sit in that position that God is greater than you and Christ is greater than you, and you're there to learn to attune to them. Then it's actually a relaxing experience, I would say.
That's really important, that whole humility thing. I remember sort of at the beginning of my kind of spiritual seeking when I was about 19, 20, and I came across this book. It's this American-born guru, Adi Da. I always think it sounds like La Di Da, but Adi Da. I can't remember the surname. Yeah, you probably know of him, right?
And I don't actually.
Oh, you don't? Okay, yeah. So anyway, a friend of a friend was well into him and used to go to his ashram and all this sort of stuff. And I got really into it. Sort of, it did wake me up to the whole spiritual path in a way. I got his book, and I got to the end of the book, and after all these, quite interesting stuff and incredible experiences that he'd had, he says, "I am the God man, and you have to worship me." And literally, the book like almost flew out of my hand, and then I kicked it under my bed, but then I realized I couldn't have it under my bed. I had to actually get rid of it.
Yeah, you don't want that under your bed. That's gonna like waft upwards or something at night.
That's what I thought it was going. It was going to waft throughout the whole house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's like I do see that a lot, and I think that's a confusion in the reality that yes, God is within us, but you're not God. And like that's how some of these gurus get, though I hate to say it, but sometimes they start out good.
Yeah.
And then over time, over the decades, they just start getting really eccentric, and they're doing things that are not spiritual. And I've seen it time and time again. They lose it, so.
Yeah, I think actually sort of looking at his journey, I think he really was, he did have enlightenment kind of experiences, and he did have profound experiences, even of the Christ being and certain things. Yeah. And if you read Steiner's How to Know Higher World, Knowledge of the Higher Worlds, there comes this choice point. Am I going to, humble myself before beings that are higher than me, or am I going to choose the dark path, the path of black magic in a way? And it's almost like you read this guy's book and you can see where he actually made that choice. It's quite terrifying in a way.
It is. It is. It's just like, temptation, when Christ is in the desert,
Mhm.
and the devil comes and says, worship me. And we all have those moments where and probably throughout life, where you really have to be honest with yourself and not let that lower ego start to take over. Because I see it happening a lot with different people. Sometimes they go through something really traumatic in their life. They lose faith in God, or these different things happen. But it is a pattern where I've seen many different. What was that one guru who ended up running guns like in his basement or something?
Oh,
Like it just
there's a Netflix documentary. Is that the one? I haven't
yeah.
actually seen it.
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, how did we get here? But it happens.
I think yeah, I'm actually uh connected with I studied in the seminary for the Christian community, which is a movement that sort of came up out of Steiner's work, and talking to some of the priests, and I haven't actually gone ahead and become ordained, but talking to some of the priests that say things like, the once you start getting closer to that point of being ordained in this sense, um, and it's the same with people who work a lot on themselves and their meditative path and all that sort of stuff. I guess from any tradition, the the adversary forces become very, very interested in you, and so it's the challenges become more. Those temptations become even stronger.
Mm-hmm.
So none of us are immune. There's no kind of secret get out clause. Did you lose me for a second there? Am I back?
Yeah, no, I heard it. Yeah, how the adversarial forces they become more, they do, the more that you become spiritually aware. And especially like if you're trying to go into a position in the world where you're going to inspire people and you're going to take a spiritual role, that's a threat to the demonic realm. That's a threat to their food, right? That's a threat to their whole existence. Higher spiritual beings like angels, they don't need your energy to exist, right? Demonic entities do. So yes, if you're like coming into a powerful position, or you're going to be like influencing the community and raising people, they'll try to do weird things to you in your life, or they'll come around, and it works in a way of conditioning for you, though, or me or whoever, because you have to become stronger and stronger and stronger, which betters you for the role. So it kind of works as a conditioning experience, because you got to find out how you can operate in that space, because it gets louder and louder, and you have to figure out how you can still operate in that. you know that's how I sort of see that.
I think that's a great way to put it. It's like that is, in a way, the mission of evil is
Yeah.
to make good more good, or to test us so that it reminds me of those paintings of Saint Anthony, I think it is, where there's just like crazy, wild, demonic beings. Some of them look quite amusing, all over him, like grabbing him around the neck and holding him down, sort
Yes.
of stuff. And he's just, you know, on the threshold, battling with them, but trying to stay calm or being calm.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's exactly what it is to do this work. And I think some people, like in Instagram culture, TikTok culture, they're like, "Yeah, I'm going to be an online guru. I'm going to be a pastor. I'm going to do that." And then it's like, I just want to show them a picture of Saint Anthony and be like, "This is what you want to do?" Like this is it. Because that's basically what it is. So,
Yeah, this is your idea of fun, is it?
just so you know, this is what you're want, this is it. So that's how I see it.
That's very, very cool way to put it. So just thinking about all of that, and you mentioned earlier about I like your metaphor or analogy. I get them mixed up about music and being in the rhythm of the music of this time and the epoch that we're in. But it connected with music in another way. What's going on with these pop stars like Katy Perry and others who, I think it's usually around the Super Bowl time, isn't it? They do these,
Yeah.
and I think you mentioned last time we spoke that I said, what's going on with these things? And you said it's actually like an occult ritual taking place. It's not just a performance. But I was sort of wondering, do you think the artists themselves are aware of what they're doing, or is it the people behind them? It's the artistic director says, I know, let's do the Whore of Babylon. That'll be cool. But like, how does it come about, you know?
I think it's very difficult to be famous, and I don't think it's merit based. I don't think that the most famous people are necessarily the most talented people. I think that that's across the board in every single aspect of popular culture. I think that in particular with music, um, even in Hollywood, I think that there's a process where producers, casting directors, agents will have discussions with you. I think you'll go to parties. And I think that they'll start introducing different conversations to you to see if you're interested. And I think over time, kind of like herding cattle, they will choose people who seem to be more and more open to a, quite frankly, Luciferic satanic way of being. And I think that I think that's probably the most important thing in these cases. I mean, look at how much auto tune and stuff is used now over listening to music from the 60s or something like that. I think that it's an incredibly powerful thing to have a song out there, a concert out there, a movie out there. And I think it's an occult thing, and it always has been. It's only in recent times that this hasn't been a literal ritual, like a mystery play. Or that's how it always used to be. They were always spiritual concepts conveyed in Shakespeare or Faust or whatever it was. It was always supposed to be you go on a journey with them, and spiritual archetypes are introduced to you to have you process whatever's going on. And so it's always been spiritual. And from my perspective, all of that is only augmented when you look at the kind of symbology they use. They don't even hide it. It's blatant, it's crass, it's vulgar, actually. It's so obvious. And everybody knows it, but people are just too busy in their life to care. But I mean, I think the Katy Perry example of her at the Super Bowl posturing herself as Ishtar, the Babylonian goddess, or the Whore of Babylon. I mean, you'd have to have one brain cell in there to not know that that's exactly what's going on.
So do you think it's like, yeah, so they've been gradually, they're malleable. Certain people are more malleable than others, and they're maybe a little bit brainwashed into it and that kind of thing. They've got these handlers, don't they? They have handlers who
Yeah,
kind of,
I
give
think
them the
so.
drugs and
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, these people are controlling the culture. This is what every little girl aspires to and every little boy aspires to. This is it. I mean, they listen to music, they watch the music videos, they watch the movies. These are their idols. To the point that I can say to people, listen, Taylor Swift or Katy Perry or whoever is an occultist. And they're like, no, 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 I'm a Swiftie, or they can't even see it because they've invested so much of their own image and their own heart into this music and into this whatever. They get them for life, and that's what's going on, unfortunately.
And do you think that goes back a long way? Like as you were speaking, and they're saying, "Oh no, 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 I'm a Swiftie." I was just thinking about my obsession with the Beatles, and I'm actually a failed rock star myself. So, that was that was where I was wanting to go and where I was headed. But do you think, you know, like going back to the 60s, it's still a part of sort of an occult ritual, the whole thing?
I think it's much more streamlined now. I think it's much more controlled now, much more streamlined now. There's absolutely occultism in the Beatles, like they have on their Sgt. Pepper album, I believe. They have Crowley in there. Yeah. And so they are definitely experimenting. However, I would say that, you know, look at Led Zeppelin. They're using occult symbols on their albums. In the 60s, people, I don't think, really necessarily knew what it was like we do now. That's sort of how I see it. It was sort of like you had these impulses from the East coming in with the Beatles, especially with George Harrison. George Harrison went into the Eastern path, you know, and he writes, you know, My Sweet Lord and all that kind of stuff. And then you have like the other Beatles, which seem to go more maybe towards the Western stuff a little bit. So they have a different, you know, George definitely goes Eastern. And then the other ones, I think, were going a different way. And you see John obsessing with Egypt and Atlantis and things like that. And he sees a UFO. And I think that they were much more free than we are today with music. I think they had influences. I think they probably shook hands with a few CIA agents or MI6 agents or whatever it is on your side of the pond, for sure. You know, Elvis was like working with Nixon and stuff like that. But I think that, you know, today it's much more controlled. And I think back then it was around. It's clear it was around. But I don't think that the Beatles were manufactured to the same degree, for example, that someone like a Justin Bieber is, or a Katy Perry is, or a Britney Spears, or a Taylor Swift. These are manufactured pop stars. Whereas I think in earlier periods, there's definitely control. There's a record label, there's handlers and stuff, but I think it's a bit more organic than what we're seeing today.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I think it's more like they grew up organically, and then the powers that be kind of came in and used their influence, rather than today, like you say, it's like they pick them up, they get them when they're very young. Like, was Katy Perry like a child star kind of person? I'm not sure. And then
I think she was, yeah.
And then they kind of mold them into something. Whereas I think the Beatles did come about organically. There are people that argue about that, who say, no, they're
the Tavistock. I don't know. Weren't they all from Liverpool though? Didn't they, like, weren't they in the same town? The same kind of blue collar.
They are, yeah, they're all from Liverpool, yeah.
So there's definitely non-organic aspects, but as soon as you get, like, I think they approached the Beatles eventually is what happened. Yeah. But I don't think the Beatles were fully manufactured, in my opinion. My husband's a big music aficionado, knows that he loves the Beatles, he loves all that. And so just listening to it and stuff, but the occultism is there, but not nearly what we're dealing with today, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you. I'm very happy to hear someone else thinks that. Haven't ruined my childhood all of a sudden. So something else someone I know in the anthroposophical world said that, or felt that, the Beatles actually, if they had have come across anthroposophy, maybe they would have gone in that direction, but they went down the Eastern path, and the Maharishi, they got into those circles, and then the whole 60s culture kind of went that way to some degree. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that, see, my opinion is I love anthroposophy. It's hard for me to not understand when someone doesn't get it, you know, like I feel like that's my personal bias. But yeah, I think they would have, see, the Eastern path is different than the Western path, though. That's the thing. There's differences in the paths, whereas there's such a heavy influence on meditation and inward reflection. Even the music of the East, I think, really hypnotized the sitar and like the chanting, like the Hare Krishna kind of chanting, I think they really resonated with that mixture that the East has with the music aspect, because I think that's their language. And so if Steiner spent more time on music, he might have grabbed him, I think. But there's something very seductive, I think, about that Eastern way to a lot of us Westerners. It's very casual. It's sort of, it's just, there's a curiosity to it as well.
It's just way, it seems way cooler, right?
Yeah, there's something about it where it's like I'm going to India and I'm going to live in an ashram and I'm going to play the sitar, and I think that there's something about maybe also being away from people who knew them as well. There could be that escape from, that particular, getting out of your country to people who don't know you could have been appealing to them and spiritually important for them as well. Whereas going to the Gurdjianum or something, they'd be recognized. So there could be lots of reasons why.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it. Yeah. And I'm not sort of saying, yeah, I'm biased towards anthroposophy as well. So it's, yeah, I can fall into that trap quite easily. Something else I noticed on your recent video as well, when you were talking about this, a lot of stuff in these symbols in pop culture. What's that artist's name? Abramovich, is that her surname?
I believe so.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly, but there was an exhibition of hers which was like it's sort of kind of a bit disgusting to say, but it's like a cake, but it's in the shape of a human body, but it really looks like a human body, and they're eating the cake. I think Lady Gaga's there as well, or as I like to call her, Lady Gaga. But
Yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
and I don't know what's going on there. It's like a glorification of cannibalism or something. I think we might have talked about that last time, actually.
No, I don't know. That's exactly what it is. And I refuse to be like Winston in 1984 and say that two is three or whatever. No, that is the glorification of cannibalism, and it should disgust you because it's completely weird and dark. And I think we just need to say that there's nothing even avant-garde about it. You're just a freak. Like, let's just be real about it. You're a dark person and you're a creep. If you make, hey, listen, if you make a human cake with a red velvet inner, like, get out of here. You shouldn't be at the museum, okay, doing things. You shouldn't be at the gala. You should be like probably in jail or something. You should be in jail. I don't know what you're doing in your personal time, but if you're doing that in front of people, like, let's get real. Anyway, but cannibalism is part of the it's a satanic rite. It is what happens inside of the human being when you begin to cannibalize yourself. There's a whole point when it becomes selfishness, when you become super, super selfish, where you actually cannibalize in a way your own energy. You're not opening up to God. You're not humbling yourself before the actual force of life in the world. So you begin to cannibalize yourself, or you get into cannibalistic energy relationships with demonic entities who cannibalize you. And so the dark arts is actually all about cannibalism. It's all about energetic parasitism, which is cannibalism. It's energy eating energy to survive. Whereas when you are aligned with Christ and you're aligned with life, you operate in harmony with the entire cosmos and rhythm with it, and you're not really cannibalizing anything. And so that draw towards like let's do that, like, that is to me showing a very sick person.
It's
It
great.
wasn't even Halloween either.
It's great to have you just there calling a spade, because I think is the tendency in the culture is to sort of go, oh, it's just, pushing the boundaries, and, we've got to push the boundaries because we want to see where they are. And do we? If it's just, and I think, like you say, I felt disgust, and even like I want to make grimacing things with my jaw, my jaw. That's probably a healthy reaction.
Yeah, it is a healthy reaction. And it's like, what I have to say to that is, like, we actually know where the boundaries are. Like, we know that that's gross and that that's degenerate. Like, I don't have to make a weird looking human cake to know that that's pushing a boundary. Like, that's, I just feel like that's just like, you have the spirit of Lucifer in you, and you just enjoy, like a giddy child, seeing people disgusted because you need help. Like, that's how I see that. Like, you're just wanting to get power from people by disgusting them. It's like that's what a 10-year-old does. That's the kind of sophistication that this, whatever's going on, it's a childish level of, operation.
So I don't need to go and make the cake myself to test out the boundary.
Well, no, you don't. And the cake actually looked like a blow-up doll. Like, it wasn't even a good cake. You know how they have like the Cake Master show on Netflix, and someone makes a cake and it's like a whale or something, and you're like, oh my God, that looks like a whale. That's so good. But that cake looked like a 10-year-old made it too, on top of it. It wasn't even a good cake.
Yeah, so she's not going to win any baking competitions either.
No.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, let's leave that. Let's leave that where it is, because that's enough. I've had enough. Stop. Stop now. Stop, Gigi.
Focus.
Yeah. Where do you go from human cakes?
We've reached the bottom.
Yeah, we've reached the bottom. Let's start climbing back up. Yeah, Katy Perry also had a video of her being eaten, I think, at one point. But anyway, we reached the bottom. I don't need to go there.
Yeah.
So we started out mentioning this incarnation of Ariman, which I also sort of find a bit difficult to talk about. It's I don't know, it can seem too out there for people, that an evil being would actually become a human being and walk around among us. And so I don't know if it's too much, but I was saying to you just before we started that I like the way you courageously go into these things. I've been a little bit tentative about talking about them, but yeah. So tell me what you think about this incarnation. What's it about? Has it happened already? Is it coming up soon? What does it mean for us? What do we do about it?
Yeah, the incarnation aspect that evil can personify, it can be difficult for us, but the Christ personified. So we see that the personification of certain entities in our world is part of our evolution. It has to personify, it has to enter us officially. And so that's actually part of how we evolved, just like how Lucifer had an incarnation. So these great beings, they do have incarnations, just like the spiritual masters have incarnations. The great Bodhisattvas have incarnations. So we all have our own, every great entity has its own process of development in the cosmos. And they do centralize in a human body to essentially bring into humanity everything that they are. So humanity can fully confront it, because humanity can't fully see or accept something until it officially enters them, enters this world, enters this earth. So that's where the incarnation comes from. It has to personify.
Okay,
And
so just like I think, sorry to cut you off, just a good example I
no,
think for people to hear about is, the Bodhisattva that became the Buddha, brought to humanity by incarnating into a human body, becoming a human being, fully human being, brought the teaching of love and compassion to humanity. And if he hadn't have come into a body to do that, we wouldn't have the potential of that ourselves.
correct. Once something enters into the human form, it's in everybody.
Potentially.
And that's how it works. Yes, essentially, it's once something enters into life on Earth, there's a level of it where we're all one. And so that force enters into all man. And that's like the Akashic Records kind of idea as well, where there's a shared aspect of everything. But this is with the great incarnations too. The same thing with Krishna and these great beings. They move the culture forward by depositing something in it, just like you do, just like I do, just like everyone does. And so when you get these great personalities that come in, it is for the evolution of the world. And it's important for it to get to that level of personification, to enter into the actual orb of the earth, into man. It's the final stage of it, actually. It's before it begins its own, a different aspect of its own journey. And so whatever being that is, but we're talking about the Antichrist. But I love hearing the different things. I'm kind of looking at, I don't know, I'm looking at 2033, 2032.
For the birth?
For, I don't know, for either the rise or either, I feel intuitively in my own visions that is a significant year for Antichrist. I'm not sure exactly what, but I do feel like 2033, 2032, even 2028, that period is very significant for creating the environment for Antichrist, and we may see it rise or something around that come through. That's what I'm looking at.
Oh, that's interesting, because that's the 2030 agenda for
Yes,
the UN, etc.
exactly.
Mm,
And then 33 is an important number on its own as well.
yeah.
But that's what I'm looking at for at least a significant culture that must be formed to receive him or reveal him. That's what I see it. That's a huge, and that's why you see this weird acceleration around things. And it's like, why are these elites, moving forward this, all these agendas when humanity really doesn't accept it? They're not really interested. They seem to be moving it forward at their own expense because I think they're on a timeline.
Right.
A spiritual timeline, that is. Yeah.
Okay. Have you seen, do you know of Terry Boardman, anthroposophical writer?
Yes.
Yeah. He's got a couple of good articles about the incarnation, and sort of
Yes,
does a
I
lot of
have
the
seen, I
numbers.
think I saw.
Sorry, lost you there for a second.
Oh, what does he think? I'd love to hear that. What does he think?
I can't remember off the top of my head. I should link the article below and send it to you as well.
Below, link it below.
Will do. Will do. Yeah, it's really interesting because he goes deep into the numbers. Yeah, okay. So not necessarily a birth at that time, but maybe a kind of a culmination at that time.
Culmination, that's what I personally see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Someone I
I think the
spoke to,
2028 presidency is going to be, sorry, go ahead.
I think there's a little bit of a delay, and it keeps cutting. We'll have to see how it goes. So I spoke to somebody else recently, I won't mention names, but who thinks that there might be a connection with Elon Musk's seventh son or seventh child, is it? This young boy that keeps being put into photographs with Trump, and I don't know.
Oh, is that his seventh?
That's what this person said. I don't know if it actually is his seventh, but
That's what I'm wondering. Um, it's funny. Elon Musk has all. Oh,
are we
okay, we're
back?
back.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I don't know what's happening. We're back. Sorry, we
And
were
see,
on Elon.
he did that. I'm just kidding. I was just saying, he's like a caricature of, Ariman in a lot of ways. The only thing I mean, if very possible, I've never heard of that, but that's a very interesting principle. The thing about Elon is like, who is behind him? Because he is high all the time. There's no way he's doing all of these things. He's out of his mind. Like, I mean, I saw a video of him at the Oval Office, and it was like the most publicized goodbye with President Trump, and he's on another planet, literally. Like, what is important to this person? I mean, I definitely, when I see that and the reality that he's supposed to be running 50 companies, I'm like, you're not running any of them because you're high all the time. And I don't know what's going on there. You obviously have a drug problem and it's very bad. And you're not running anything. So who is behind Elon is the next question, because that's who we need to look at, because that's how I sort of, maybe there's something about grooming. I definitely think that occurs. I'm also looking at Barron Trump. I think it's very unusual that Barron Trump has this origin story that's an Alice in Wonderland origin myth around him. Barron's trip underground.
Don't know about it.
He has Barron Trump also is one to watch, because he's got this spiritual origin story to him where apparently someone predicted that he was going to exist. And there's someone named Trump in it. There's someone named Pence in it. And this is this book from the 1800s.
Yes,
It's
I
a
did hear
time
about
travel
that.
thing.
Yeah.
That whenever, I don't know, I can't be sure. I'm just watching like everyone else. But when I see something like that, I start to, it doesn't encourage me around him. It makes me more suspicious that people want you to think he's a messiah. People want you to think that this is an important person. I don't think, oh, this is an important person. I think, wow, this secret society wants you to be an important person. That's what I think. So that could also be going on with all these different families who just happen to become gazillion billionaires and are probably highly compromised, no question about it. And there could be doing something occult with a seventh son. That wouldn't surprise me one bit. Well, why are they trotting him around like that too? Why trot him? Why bring him around and do that? I mean, unless they wanted to. He was becoming had a very low approval rating because conservatives didn't see his lifestyle as being conducive to their ideologies. And so he could have also been bringing his son around to make himself seem more fatherly, okay. I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
Sure. So two things out of that. One, do you think with a lot of these public figures, like I often think of Bill Gates, it's like people see him as the epitome of evil or whatever. Well, some people do. Some people think he's a great philanthropist, but
okay.
Yeah. So, but to me, he looks like the sort of front guy, the guy who's compromised and just has to keep being trotted out like a show pony, like stuff. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's no doubt in my mind that there's certain people who, in order to become that wealthy, in order to become that powerful, you agree to play the role. And if that role goes well, you become worshipped. And there's examples of that too, of people who are probably just as nihilistic and people who are just as misanthropic as him, but people adored them for whatever reason. And then other times, I think they have to go out there and advocate for things, and they have to stick with it because he's the vaccine guy. That's who he is. He's created that for himself. And I don't think that you get that wealthy and that powerful without shaking a few hands. For sure. And I don't think you're free.
No, I think there's some videos out there, aren't there, of him in a very sort of traumatized, like going through a kind of a traumatic or in a traumatic state when he's being questioned, and he doesn't look very well at all. It's like he was broken down and then, yeah.
Probably. I mean, I don't think it's a norm. I see like the super wealthy, and it's like I don't think it's not a normal life for sure. And his family had very deep connections to banking and things like this. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if he had a really rough childhood and is the product of that. And that's very unfortunate. And if that is the case, he should just come forward with it. I think that's what we need. Is we need these kinds of heroes to say, listen, I'm a jerk and I'm compromised, but I want to get better. I think that's what we really need. Is we need people in power to realize that that's what we want. As people, we want to have all of this blackmail culture and all of these lies. We just want it to heal. And I think that it would be great if more people, obviously not Bill Gates, I think the ship has sailed with that, but other people, even in lesser positions that have had these things happen to them, like you're saying, if there is a culture of abuse behind them, and they do feel they're being manipulated, they do feel like they're being blackmailed, and that they're doing these things and they don't want to, they should just come forward at this point. And I think they would be way more accepted than they think.
Has anyone done that, to your knowledge, any of the public figures?
I have not seen anyone try. Well, there's been whistleblowers who have, like lesser sort of whistleblowers that have been like, listen, this happens with this company or whatever it is. But to my knowledge, no politicians or any of these really powerful people or in their family have ever done anything like that. They just carry it, probably because they're just worried about their families, honestly. You know, it's never really about them. Usually it's about their families, but you know.
Yeah, but we need some heroes, like you say. Yeah.
We do need some heroes, and it would change the culture so that kind of stuff didn't work anymore. You know?
Like a real revelation kind of thing, revelation of what's happening.
We need it. We need it. And then they'll stop trying to blackmail people because nobody cares. That's what that's what it kind of has to be, you know.
That's very interesting. Something else you mentioned in there about you kind of mentioned like a messiah figure, and I think I read in Steiner somewhere that Steiner's lectures that the incarnation of Ariman could be, you know, put forward as a kind of a messiah, because it will be this person will be extremely clever and maybe able to inspire clairvoyant vision in other people and that kind of thing. I'm not 100% clear he's talking about the incarnation of Ariman in the same breath as that, or if that's something separate. But yeah, do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I know that other people, assuming that Rudolf Steiner's incarnation of Ariman is equal to like Antichrist in Revelation and the biblical version of Antichrist, I know that the biblical conception is that I mean, I believe it is that he'll be sort of suave. Is that, I think it is that. And that would make sense to me, actually. I've been actually thinking about this because we've been on the topic of Elon Musk today, and after seeing his sort of foibles and his personality, and that it's not suited for public life, and so I'm actually like thinking, I don't know if Elon Musk really frightens me. I think he's his own worst enemy. What frightens me is the guy after that, who's actually suave, who actually is able to get people to like them. Because I think that that's much more dangerous, is someone who can really sell these ideas, because I don't think that Musk has been successful really in that. I think there's incredible criticism towards his projects and towards him from both sides of the aisle. And I think that I worry about the people that come after, actually, that see that and they're like, okay, we can't do that, so we have to be liked. And the next generations of that archetype, I think, is getting to what you're saying, where it's someone who makes these things sexy and convinces you that this is the way to go, and doesn't have these kinds of foibles that we see in the individuals, like even like the Sam Altman types, or these tech guys, Zuckerberg. They're not really someone that you want to be, right? So they have the antichrist quality, but they're not making you want to. They have the tech aspect, but they're not entering a room and commanding it the way how the antichrist is sometimes portrayed. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. They're not charming, really, are they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not that they're not like a human being. It's just that sometimes the portrayal of the antichrist is this charisma and this seduction. There's a seductive element to the antichrist. And I don't really know if I see that in the current people who are trying to sell us this culture of technology. So I don't know, but I'm just saying if that is an element of it,
I just want to point out to the listeners as well that, and the viewers, that because we're talking in a sense negatively about Elon Musk and people in the, maybe in the Trump side of things, that doesn't mean we're pro the other side. I really want to make that clear. It's like we've gone to a different level here where we're talking, it's beyond the politics of it. But I really like actually in some of your videos, I think you called Elon Musk brain chip space guy. Is that right? Is that what you called him?
Yeah, brain chip space bro.
Bro's way better than guy. Yeah, that's cool. Bro's way better. Yeah, excellent. That's what we'll call him from now on.
Yeah.
So yeah, someone probably much more charismatic, someone extremely clever with a kind of a seductive personality that can convince hordes of people to follow a certain train of thought.
Because like if you think about it, a lot of these tech guys could be the first prototype. Like roll it out, see how people respond, see if people like them, and then just try to keep making it better. Like if you look at these different secret societies and they just have these like bobos or these people that they just have as frontmans. That's what they repeatedly do, is they just get these frontmans to operate their public aspect. They're just going to keep improving the frontman.
I don't know what a bobo is.
Oh, a bobo is like a front man that you would put in a position to represent a company because the company doesn't want you to know who they are.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. New words.
That's what I think about. I think about these people are front men for a much more sinister force, preparing the stage for Ariman.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's the sort of human incarnation aspect, but obviously it's much bigger than that, isn't it? It's like the culmination of, the transhumanist movement, the fact that I think you mentioned in one of your videos about, everything on the earth becoming mechanized, including the human being, including maybe even our thinking, maybe even our physical bodies, So how do you see it, sort of the big picture side of what's happening there?
Yes, how I see it is that, well, I actually see Ariman being connected to the Mars impulse. And this is not Rudolf Steiner's work. This is my own work. I don't want to rope him into something that he didn't say. So I see it as being connected with the Mars impulse, actually. And the masculine impulse, when it gets out of control and fallen, moves towards this hyper-technological way to feel progression. And the feminine, when it becomes imbalanced, becomes regressive and humanity gets reduced into like hyper tribalism and animalism and things like that. This isn't women and men, it's the impulse of masculine and feminine. And so how I see it is that with the incarnation of the Antichrist is the fallen male principle. It's the inverted male principle. Christ is the perfect male principle, and the Ariman is the Antichrist, fallen Mars principle, basically. And what they have to do is take absolute control and domination of every form of life. And they need to do that to feel powerful, until eventually the masculine aspect completely absorbs into itself the feminine, which is the earth, and completely dominates it. So instead of liberating the feminine, saving the feminine, like in every single Grail myth and every single fairy tale, you have the masculine aspect saving the princess, rescuing the damsel, fighting for her, protecting her. You have this really sick archetype of the male that actually completely enslaves the earth, completely enslaves her, and her being also Mother Nature. So no process can be Mother Nature's alone anymore. The weather has to be controlled. Bill Gates is out there creating this nefarious plan to he's out there blocking the sun. Leave it alone. You want to put every single piece of food has to be geoengineered. People, we have to be a Gattaca society where people are geoengineered. This is Ariman. Ariman wants to control nature, wants to control reproduction, wants to control every facet because he's the inverted male. He's the inverted Christ. And it's all the only way that that individual can feel good is by completely dominating and controlling every natural process, including your body, including your mind. And that's what makes him feel powerful, is the complete absorption of everything into himself, which is why he's also associated with the black sun in Sorat. So it's this absorption of everything into himself, which is not how the male energies should operate at all. So it's a complete inversion of Christ, actually. And whereas Christ liberates everybody and draws them upward, gives life and the potential for total proliferation of the soul, Ariman takes it and he absorbs it into himself. And that's how I see him. It's like this Kardashev scale thing too that really bothers me. Like, we have to become a type 1 civilization, a type 2 civilization. We got to put a Dyson sphere around the sun. That's completely Armonic. That behavior, as well as Antichrist behavior, as I would call it too. So it's the mechanization of everything, the abandonment of the earth, like Parzival abandons his mother. It's the whole. We have all of it there. All the imagery is there. We're just experiencing it now, I would say.
Really great to hear your individual take on that. I've just been reading Parsifal, actually. I wept through the whole thing. It's really amazing tale. Just on that, before we sort of finish up, I want to ask you about what we can do about it, or what we should be doing or can do. But I just want to point something out as well, that we've got all this information from Steiner. We've got these 30 books and nearly 6,000 lectures, and there's a lot in there, and you probably can't get through it in your lifetime. Well, maybe you could, but you probably wouldn't do it justice. One wouldn't do it justice. And so what we're doing, and Steiner wasn't there as a guru to sort of say, this is, he pointed a lot of things out. Anthroposophy, in a sense, isn't one path. He talked about lots of different paths, and gave a lot of information, gave a lot of exercises, practices, and things. But ultimately, our task as people who are interested in anthroposophy and inspired by it is to make it our own and to individuate it, because we're not here to be copies of Rudolf Steiner or copies of anyone. We're here to be more and more who we really are, which is the goal, in a sense, of the I am, and the Christ being the I am that is the ultimate I am, leading us, each of our little I am, to be more and more who we really are. So I just want to point that out, that what you're doing by giving us today, these ideas that you've had about the inverted male principle is just, it's so important. And even if we're sort of just quoting Rudolf Steiner or saying, he said something like this, we're still doing that from our own individuality. And so, you know, people might go, oh, you misquoted Steiner here, you misquoted him there. Well, yes, maybe I did. And what I'm really saying is this is what I think he was saying, or this is what I think out of my own individuality. And that's what you're doing, Gigi. And I think it's really important what you're doing in your work, and sharing the things that you've come to yourself as well. And I think there's really big insights in there about the masculine and feminine principles. So yeah, I just want to highlight that for people as well, that we're not here just to regurgitate Steiner lectures. Yeah. So yeah, sorry, Jen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I like that clarification. Oh yeah, no, I was just going to say I completely agree, and I do like to clarify that I am a mystic, a psychic who uses the anthroposophical system, but I'm not an anthroposophical, like I'm going to take Steiner's lecture and I'm going to break this down for you word for word and tell you what he meant. I use the anthroposophical system as part of my own understanding of my own psychic experiences and my own visions. And it is the best system that I believe that is out there, in my opinion. But yeah, I think that there's a difference between a hardcore Steiner teacher who will break down the lectures and teach it exactly as Steiner did, and they really bring that impulse, and that's important. That's really important to maintain that stream in that way. But I'm a mystic who is a teaching mystic who's using the anthroposophical system. And there's a little bit of a difference there. Yeah.
great. Thank you. I think that's really, really great
Yeah.
to articulate that. Thank you. It's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
So what do we do?
Well, I think what we're doing now is important because I actually think that casually discussing these things in a digestible way is huge, because it's allowing us to kind of bring it into the collective, and it's getting people thinking. The comment section will come in, and so we're evolving the principle just by talking about it, giving it life. And I would also say that in general, avoiding being addicted to technology is a really big one, but I don't think that's like your audience. I don't think would fall into that. I think depending on where you are in your personal life, there's a different path to avoid Ariman. Like some people just need to put down the culture, and then people who are already outside of it, I think it's affirming being in nature. I think that's really important. I think getting closer and closer to nature, closer to animals, gardening, things like this, I think is the antidote to the Armonic impulse. That's about inhumanism. Transhumanism is inhumanism. It's anti-humanism. So become more human, become more about aligning with the earth, aligning with each other. Become more human, become as human as you possibly can with Christ in your heart, and you'll be great.
I think becoming more human, that was what I wanted to pick up on. When we sort of ask the question, what is human? And I think that's what the technology and all this stuff that's going on is forcing us to ask ourselves that question, what is human? Because if the AI can write my book for me and quote Steiner's lectures for me and everything, what does the human being, what's the point of me? If it can do the gardening for me, what is human? And it makes me think of this scene in the New Testament where Pilate looks at Jesus and says, I won't quote it exactly, so it could be not the exact words, but it's like, that is man, or behold the human being, or behold man. And I think when we talk about Christianity, you're doing a really amazing job, I think, of undoing a lot of the cultural baggage around it, because we're not talking about churchianity here, we're talking about Christianity this cosmic principle that's also an earthly principle, but it's not just this sectarian small c Christianity or churchianity. We're talking about something much bigger than that, but also we're talking about what's truly human, and Jesus Christ being the, the ultimate human being, or the human being that
Yes.
is there to show us how to be more and more human. And so I think that's an important task that we've got, us people who are talking about this kind of thing on YouTube, etc., is to break down some of these old collective consciousness things around these religious words. Like I think I went to study at this seminary, and we did a little bit of ancient Greek, and it doesn't take much. You dive into some of those words, like the word sin, for example, the ancient Greek, it's just to miss the mark, to miss the mark. It's got such a different feeling,
Hmm.
repentance, to repent, um, change your heart and mind is another
Yes.
translation. These words have got so much baggage, and it's taken me personally years to overcome that in myself and not be triggered every time I hear these words. But that's also
Hmm.
part of the task we've got, I think, and you're doing a really great job of that. I don't know if you want to respond to that at all, but
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think that a lot of the sort of churchianity stuff is very human. And it doesn't, it, religion should have a transcendental quality to it. And more and more, religion is just a series of laws. It's just a community. But really, if a religion is what it's supposed to be intended, it should have this transcendental quality to it. It should be preparing you to connect with spirit. It should be bringing you to having this perception of God yourself. And I think that that's what it should be, but we don't often see that. And that's what Rudolf Steiner advocated for his whole life, I think, was that evolution. And he talked a lot about the church too, and how it had changed over the years. Like you're saying, like even taking the meaning of the Coptic or the Greek or whatever it was, yeah, that's changed over the years too. Not to the point that Christ is irrelevant or something, but when you go into it deeper, it is more human, I do feel. And the anti-human stuff I also see with, like we talked about last time, the weird alien culture where they want to say Jesus is an alien and Buddha is an alien, and they want to make our great figures that actually were so human that they turned into an angel, basically. And that's what happens. You become so human, you transcend or you transubstantiate this world. It's from humanness that happens. And so there's this incredible harmonic movement to remove that humanness, make it an alien, make it a technology. And so it is that humanness. And I do think going back into I do think there's going to be a resurgence of Christianity as well, where it becomes truly esoteric, or the other path diverts into just following laws.
yeah.
So it's kind of like what happened with Judaism in earlier periods, where one becomes more about like the Pharisees and only about law, and
Mm.
then one becomes esoteric. And I think that's going to happen with Christianity too.
I agree. I think it's actually happening already. And you get this, I may have mentioned this last time as well, you get this sort of people go deep, deep, deep into the New Age movement. I know that's a very broad term, but it's some path down that direction. And then they snap back and they have like maybe some horrible spiritual experience. It's like they go straight back to the really dogmatic Christianity where, no, tell me what to do, give me the laws, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'll be saved. And I think this is where the esoteric Christianity has a really important role to play, because it can meet those people in the middle. You don't have to get thrown back into the law and just following the law and some old
Yes.
morality that's just from the laws of the church or something. You can find that within yourself. And that's where I think esoteric Christianity and what Steiner was bringing is this middle way. And, not to, you don't go too far into this, but if people are looking for a movement that still brings the sacraments, the bread and the wine and those things, the Christian community is is a movement that does that, that's come up out of Steiner's work, where the priests have complete freedom to teach in any way they like, and the people in the congregation are completely free individuals. There's nothing they have to believe or sign up to. So there's this the beauty and the richness and the connection that's possible through religion when it's healthy, combined with individual freedom. It does exist. Well, Gigi, I think we're almost pretty much exactly on an hour and a half, so that was really spot on. I just want to say a huge thank you to you for doing this again. It's just so great. Like, I would just want to have this conversation anyway, even if we weren't recording it. So
Yeah.
I feel really blessed and lucky to be able to get to do it. So thank you very much.
Well,
And
thank you so much.
yeah, my pleasure. And I'll of course have all your links and everything under the video and on the podcast so that people can find your work. And I know you have courses and lots of other videos and things, video series and stuff as well, which is all fantastic. So we'll be sure to link that in, and yeah, look forward to speaking to you again sometime soon.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Have a lovely evening where you are.
Will do. Thank you, and have a nice
All right.
morning, afternoon. Just one more thing, just before I stop the recording, is just that if people would like to support this podcast so that we can continue having these great conversations, you can do that with Substack and a few other places, and that'll all be linked in the description below as well. So thank you, Gigi. I'll hit stop now and see you again soon.
All right.